My favorite quote would have to be Dr. Martin Luther King. He said that the measure of a man is not where he stands in a time of convenience, where he stands in a time of conflict and adversity. And I cite that as my favorite quote because I recognize that most of the people that I have met in the time when it's convenient, when it's cool, when everything is calm, when it's peaceful, they have this grand position that they take. But in the moment of adversity, they begin to fold. And so over the past almost 30 years, I've been through a lot in my life, serving time in prison, 28 years and 9 months. So certainly, there were times when things wasn't going well. There was times when I felt depressed. There was times when things were happening in my family, that there was nothing I could do. And so to keep from worrying, to keep from stressing, to keep from, acting out or responding in any type of negative way, I always revert back to what Dr. Martin Luther King said. And so I was able to draw strength from that quote. And so that's why it's always a prevailing quote in my mind. Because, when pressure comes, I'm going to be measured or gauged where I stand in those moments. And not so much the position I take when everything is peaches and cream. My name is Ronald D.C. Reynolds, and this is my story.
So, where did you grow up? As a child, what did you aspire to be? What was your childhood like? What are some of your talents? What are some of the hobbies that you enjoy? What led to your incarceration? When you first arrived at prison, what was your first thought? What was your okay. With your favorite quote?
My favorite quote of how I do this work and what it is, well, my favorite quote is I think we had this when I was in prison. It was no surrender, no retreat. It means that you never give up, you just keep fighting. And although it was a lot of oppression in prison and people were telling us we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that, we were trying to get our families and friends involved and understanding how important voting was. And we coined a phrase called "No surrender, no retreat." And we holler that now. And you know, it's almost like some people have a quote now that says, "When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. No surrender, no retreat." So that's one of my favorite quotes, and it comes from the Angola Special Civics Project that we coined whilst I was in prison.
So, what was your first aha moment in prison? I guess a moment that I guess changed you. How did you start learning American Sign Language?
One of the things that I recognize with the deaf is that right now you have a group of deaf people. You have 3 deaf guys that are in Angola. Right now, there are many men that is learning sign language because they want to communicate with the deaf, and they don't want them to feel isolated. And I thought, I thought, how could the state incarcerate a person who was deaf? But at one time, we had 6 people who was deaf in Angola. And, although there are people now trying to learn sign language to communicate with them, to make them to make them more inclusive, they're still isolated to an extent because, the way that they like to communicate, I mean, even for a person learning sign language, it is going to take some time for them to get to the point where they could not only feel comfortable communicating with the deaf, but the deaf even feeling comfortable communicating with them. There are a lot of guys right before I left the prison that the deaf didn't want to communicate with because they just wasn't fluent enough in sign language. And so, they were to the point where they would say, you know what, I would just go in, if DC has something to do, I'm gonna go find something to do. I'd rather be alone than to be, trying to, because some people think they learn sign language when they learn the ABCs. And so I asked them this question, okay, how would you like if I was to say HOWAREYOUDOING? How are you doing? How would you like it if I was to spell every single alphabet out in a word for you to, no. And so, that I think that those are some of the challenges that the deaf face in Angola. But by and large, it's getting better because you have some guys who are committed to learning sign language. And so what I did when I was teaching sign language, I included the deaf. And it really brightens their day to help, because a lot of times hearing people think, oh, I have to go help the deaf. I got to go help them.
Yeah.
Well, the deaf people don't need no help. You see, only difference between them and us is that we can hear. We're the same people. And so, when I changed that scenery, changed that paradigm, now I have them helping the hearing. And, it's awesome. It's an awesome experience. Because if me and a deaf person is communicating and we're not conveying what we're saying to the hearing person, well, who have the communication barrier
Right.
now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's it. And, those are the things that I really enjoy. One of the deaf guys who I, really befriend, he called me every single night.
Really.
Every single night. Every single night he called me.
Wow.
And, unfortunately, I have to talk to him now through the relay service, but I'm gonna get that app on my phone where we can sign together.
So, I guess I'm curious, if most people didn't know sign language at the prison, how did he communicate? How did he get around? How did he get what he needed? Okay. Okay. So I'm guessing at a certain point you wanted to learn so much. So there was an educational program there? Did you end up helping the deaf prisoners in any type of way? Hmm. So you said you started to interpret, for your deaf friends, in different settings. So once you truly started to get a grasp of American Sign Language, did you eventually teach guards and other prisoners? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So, I'm assuming that, American Sign Language, it became a passion in prison, right? How did that impact your sentence? Like, how did that impact your time in prison? Did it make it easier? Was it, the time go by faster? What was it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So was it ever hard to get interpreters, I guess, in the places that they needed them, or were you kind of just designated to go wherever your friends went? Or oh wow. Huh. So what was your experience transitioning back outside of prison? What was that like for you? How many years did it take, and did it start at the beginning, or how did this work? Okay. What did it feel like the moment you walked out of the prison walls? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you tell us about the parole project? Okay.
Well, Parole Project is an organization that provides representation and reentry services for people who are parole eligible through the parole process. We work with attorneys with LSU Law School, Parole and Reentry Clinic. We provide our own transitional housing and reentry services through our staff. And our goal is not only to help the people who have these long and demonstrable records of rehabilitation and deserve this opportunity, have earned this opportunity for a second chance in a state where one strike and you're out in many cases. We want to help them succeed and live up to their full potential. It's not just enough to get someone out, but we know that after serving long sentences, the world is significantly changed from the world that they left behind. We're not necessarily concerned as much about their criminogenic issues as we are about their reintegration issues. And when those needs are met, and there's extraordinary high needs based on the length of time, when those needs are met, their risk is almost zero. And they contribute to society. They contribute to their families. they actually contribute to public safety.
What would you say would have to be your most favorite thing now that you're out? Like, what do you like spending your time doing? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. What are your aspirations? Okay. As careers are concerned, what do you see yourself doing? Is it in a particular setting or no, just anywhere? Okay. Okay. Do you still keep in touch with your deaf friends at prison? Okay. Okay.
Because ultimately, our humanity depends on everyone's humanity. I've learned very simple things doing the work that I do. It's just taught me very simple things. I've come to understand and to believe that each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. I believe that for every person on the planet. I think if somebody tells a lie, they're not just a liar. I think if somebody takes something that doesn't belong to them, they're not just a thief. I think even if you kill someone, you're not just a killer. And because of that, there's this basic human dignity that must be respected by law.
People are more than the worst thing that they've ever done. And that inspires me every day because I was humbled so quickly when I went to prison for a crime I didn't commit and thought that I had nothing in common, could not in any way identify with the people who were there. And just learned that they were people. Brian Stevenson says that all the time. People are more than the worst thing that they've ever done. And redemption is usually, everyone has done something in their lives that they want redemption for. And to what level that is. Some people end up in prison for it. That doesn't mean it's who they are or who they want to be.
If you could write a letter to your 17-year-old self, what would you say? In everything that you've been through, your entire journey, all of your experiences, what do you believe your biggest takeaway is? If you would notice that, teenagers or young men seem to be going or headed down the wrong road, is there a message you would tell them? Okay.
That the community could do. First of all, I believe that the churches, if the churches would get involved and really get involved and understand that a lot of churches do prison ministry, and they actually say, you know, I went into prison, I preached to them poor prisoners. And a lot of folks don't realize prisoners know the word too. They know the word of God. And I've seen pastors come in and say, we're going to go to Psalm 91, and everybody be flipping, and guys in prison be done already got to it because they have anything else to do but the word of God and trust God in there. So I think if the churches got involved and the communities get involved, and as you saw just a moment ago, here's a young man that got out of prison spent 6 years in prison. He got out, he still got his blue shirt on, jeans, and that's what he got when he came out of prison. Where's his support? Where's the family? Maybe the family was dysfunctional. We don't know, you know. But if the church had been there to help this young man, he's going to have to get a job. He's going to have to get a place to stay. He's living in a transitioning place now. And like he said, he's been in prison before. And most folks will say, well, he had his chance. Well, how many chances have God given you? You know, just think about it. How many chances have God given you? You know, I tell people all the time that had, you know, we serve a God of another chance, not a second chance. And anybody right now that's looking at this, would you want God to strike you down on your second chance? How many chances have you had? So, you know, that's what I think. And then somebody has to give that young man a job. So when he goes to fill out our application, the first thing people at the bottom, have you been convicted of a crime? So therefore that knocks him out. Then when he goes to get a house or a place to stay, he's got to check he's been in prison. So now he's going to be discriminated that way. So now he may be on the street and people will say right away, he's been to prison, he didn't learn anything, but nobody thinks about the barriers that you face when you come out. You know, when I got out of prison, Church Grace and Compassion on 6045 Airline, they adopted me right out of prison. They loved me, they cared about me, and even when they told me, I just love you, and I was saying, these people don't know me. You know, what is love? You know, you don't love me, you don't know anything about me, but in that church, nobody told me where to sit. Nobody told me not to speak to their daughter. Nobody said, don't speak to my wife. And they love me, and now I teach Sunday school. I teach adult Sunday school, but they love me and they cared about me. They helped me financially, but most of all, they helped me spiritually. They showed me what real love is about. What would Jesus do?
Okay.
They have a lot of empty beds in Angola. If not, they'll make room. I never seen the day, and I stayed there for 28 years and 9 months. I never seen a day where they called a person and said, look, John, come here. The state of Louisiana is tired of holding you, so we're gonna let you go. It never happened. They have 2 graveyards. They call Point Lookout 1 and Point Lookout 2. I was a part of a group of guys who volunteered to bury guys there, and I buried a lot of men in Angola, literally. So, you know, my message is always the same to young men and even young women, because LCIW, which is the female prison, there are a lot of females in prison now. And so, you know, it is the same. You know, when you make the wrong decisions, you are gonna pay the consequence. That's just plain and simple. And once the state of Louisiana gets its hands on you in that regard, where it's punitive, where you are being punished, in most cases, they're unforgiven. In most cases. There are men who go there young and never leave. You know, I was just telling you about a guy who went to prison at the age of 20. Right now, he's 81. And there are some men that go to prison young and die young because they can't deal with the situation. They can't deal with being separated from their family. They can't deal with the stress, all of the other things that come with being in prison. They can't deal with it. So some of them commit suicide. Or some of them put themselves in a position for other guys to kill them. And it happens in prison. You know, if you watch the news, you will see countless situations where men are still being killed in prison. I believe the administration do a good job, and this is something that I said to the parole board. The only reason why I was able to accomplish the things that I was able to accomplish is because the administration made it their primary goal to make sure that this environment was safe for people like me who had a desire to change and become better men. But who knows what tomorrow holds? Who knows, what situation you may find yourself in. So that's something that I just want to highlight, that you have to do the right thing. And sometimes people say doing the right thing is hard. Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes being separated from people who call themselves your friends, it's hard to separate yourself from them. But I tell you what, if you find yourself in prison, you'll see how easy it is for them to separate themselves from you. Because you're going to be up there alone. And you'll have your family to a certain extent. And after that, you're on your own.
My personal perspective out of all of this is that God gave me my family back. My children that told me at one time that they hated me and didn't want to be around me. Now my daughter sends me a scripture every day. My son came to see me last week, and I have a granddaughter now that's 12 years old, and she loves her pawpaw, but most of all, my children now love their father. So, when people see this, remember that because of what I did, and I take full responsibility for that, and I never will forget that another aha moment or whatever you can put in, when I was trying to scheme and get out of prison and all kinds of stuff, file motions and all that you had to get through the courts and all this, and God asked me one time, what part did you play? And I said, huh? I said, what part did you play? And he was letting me know, had I not done what I did, I would not have been in prison. See, we all blame the white man and all this, the judge, but it had not did what I did, I wouldn't have been in prison. And once I submitted and admitted to God that knows all things, and I admitted I did something wrong, then God said, okay, I can help you. But it didn't mean that I was going to get away with anything. It didn't mean I wasn't going to be punished. I still spent 20 years in prison, but my God has been with me, and my God is still with me.
Now, they say your true passion is what you wake up in the morning thinking about and go to sleep, dreaming about. What is that for you?
Sign language. Sign language, because, one time I was moved from out of the location I was in prison because of a rule infraction. I left and I stayed gone for 2.5 years. When I came back, I was placed back in the sign language class. And maybe a week or two after that, we went to take the EIPA test. And the first time that I went and took the performance test, you have to score at least a 3.0. The first time I took that test, the very first time, I scored a 3.0. While everybody else in the class, they scored 2.5, 2.1, 2. On their first try. No one scored a 3.0 on their first try, but me. And so the guys would question me, how did you do it? How did you do it? Because every night, whether I was in prison or even since I've been released from prison, I communicate in sign language every single night and always in my mind. And so, again, it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I really love doing. And I didn't set out to learn the sign language to help the deaf. I set out to learn the sign language to communicate with the deaf.
Wow. Yeah. What are your aspirations now? What do you see yourself doing?
I really see myself interpreting for the deaf, because for the last 3 or 4 days, that's what I've been doing. I've been on the phone trying to line up interviews with different people who work in different agencies, concerning sign language. And so that is my mission, and I will not stop. And I just told a guy prior to coming to meet with you that I am going to get a job interpreting. I will do it. And you know, one of the things that I love about myself is that when I set out to do something, I don't stop until I accomplish it.
Yeah.
I told a guy before I left prison, I said, I promise you within 2 months, I'm gonna have a vehicle. It only took me 2.5 weeks. I got me a vehicle. I'm just not driving it until I get the insurance on it. And so that's my aspirations. My aspirations is to either be in someone's church interpreting, or to be with a deaf person somewhere interpreting for them. That's what I aspire to do. And you know, the thing that is gonna make it amazing for me is that this was a skill that I had no knowledge of. I entered Angola at the age of 20. Never in my wildest dreams see myself doing this. But this is something that I learned inside of a prison, and I've brought it out and I'm utilizing it in the real world. So that's the thing that helps me wake up every morning inspired. That's the thing that keep me motivated and keep me grounded until I accomplish that. And that's gonna be what I set out to do every single day.
Last thing, and can you quote, you know, your favorite quote from The Alchemist?
From The Alchemist, it says, when you really, 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 really want something, when you really want something, you have to want it, and you want it bad. If you want it, then all the universe conspires to help you get it. Now, it may read or it may be quoted certain, but that's the way I understand it. All the universe conspires to help you get it. And the example, and you know, when I use that quote, I ask people, I say, have it ever been something in your life that you wanted so bad, then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you like, that's just what I needed. Well, that's the universe conspiring, you see? Just like me wanting that vehicle, the universe was conspiring. That's just like me wanting this job, wanting a job, working with the deaf. You know, the universe was conspiring, because yesterday I received not one phone call, not 2, but 3 phone calls. And so it's something that I really want, and I believe that the universe is not gonna stop conspiring until I get it.
Okay.
We had a group, like I told you, someone give us a name, called us the Silent Voices. We've operated in many different venues, in the church, at banquets, at social events. But this song, I believe, this song, it started off with Barack Obama giving some, like a prelude, opening up the song. And so I think that was a part of his campaign, I believe, or something, hope you can believe in, or something to that effect. And so, you know, the whole, when I heard the song, it instantly inspired me, because at the time I was serving life without parole, right? And I used to talk to a lot of people. I used to talk to college students that come into the prison. I used to talk to different groups when they come into the prison. I used to conduct these different tours. I used to talk to at-risk youth. And so, you know, one of the things, because guys used to ask me, man, you believe you're gonna die here? Absolutely not. Never crossed my mind about dying in Angola. I never thought of nothing like that. That's foolishness, right? And so, because that was me, and I'm just one individual in a facility with thousands of people, you know, my words of inspiration used to always be to them, man, you have to believe, you have to hope, you have to see something bigger than what you see today. And when I heard that song, I said, I have to do it. I have to do it, because it is a song that not only speak about belief, but it speak about hope. And so, you know, again, the title of it is I Believe.
When the mountain seems too high, and you don't have the courage nor the strength to climb, and the road you're on won't end, But still you run, though you cannot see the finish line. And dark clouds are over you, your sky's no longer blue. You marched on straight ahead, and somehow you made it through. Got to the mountain.
Well, we had one client who, Dwight Eisenhower was president when he went to prison. And last year he was released after 61 years. And watching his first days on a cereal aisle at Walmart, and was so overwhelmed by the choices that it was almost paralyzing. You know, that was the extreme case, but it's certainly no less true for someone who served 25 or 30 years, that the world has changed. And 61 years for a person who presents no threat to society whatsoever. That's how I do it.
When the world was on your shoulder and the walls were in your way, you leaped and made it over. Through it all you kept the faith. With hope you set us free. You showed us how to dream. And now we can lift our voices and forever sing. Now's the time to look ahead and thank our heroes of the past and celebrate this victory. Let's raise the flag, 'cause I believe, I believe, I believe, oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, oh. And when they tried to keep you down, you kept up your head, never losing sight. You believed in what was right. You endured to the end. Walked through the strongest wind. And when our hope was dying, you brought us healing. And now I got something to tell my children.
When I got to Angola, I was shackled and bound, and people calling me all kinds of names and everything. Spent 20 years there, 7,309 days, and maybe 3 years after I got out of prison, I got a chance to go back to Angola doing re-entry and prison ministry. God reminded me of how powerful God is. And I was driving down through the prison by myself in my car, and I could see in my mind what Paul and Silas went through. I saw what Daniel did and understood in the lion's den, and I had to just stop for a moment and say, Daddy, you bad. Man told me I'd never leave, but look what you did. So I guess that would be my aha moment, because I give all glory and all praise to God for me being where I am and allowing me to do this.
So stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Lift every voice and sing. Hey! Let the soldier